Hello ladies and gentlemen, I am BorderWise and welcome back to From the Depths Let's Build, where we're doing a suggestion that I got the other day on the community post where I said, hey guys, let's have some ideas for videos and builds and stuff. And someone, and it just occurred to me, I don't remember their username, suggested that I should do some orbital artillery with CRAM, and I thought, that's a jolly good idea. Since I haven't done that before, I should totally do that. So this is what you're watching right now, is me fiddling around figuring out what kind of gun you would stick on a satellite. And this was an interesting build because I didn't really know what I was doing. I've never actually built a proper attack satellite before. I've built like space bombers, I've built just, you know, stuff that flies into space and then drops stuff. That's more of like really high altitude aircraft than, you know, a proper like attack satellite. I'm not sure where the distinction actually is. I think one major difference is that I don't know, is there really a functional difference? I'm not sure. But in any case, this is my first time designing a CRAM for one of these, and so, spoiler alert, the first test, you could say, is a failure. Like, nothing gets into space in this episode, just so you know. This is me figuring out just what kind of gun I want to put on it, which is a important first step for building a craft, is like, okay, what ducker do you want to put on it? So, what you're seeing here is a 4 CRAM cannon setup with just standard diamond Tetris, and it's pretty decently arranged. It's just not as, you know, not sufficient ducker, basically. So I don't end up sticking with this, but I don't know, it's worth showing just for the benefit of everyone who maybe is at a point in Front of the Depths where they're despairing about ever getting good at it, or despairing if they're ever going to improve or make anything good. Don't worry. You gotta fail a lot before you finally succeed, so this is definitely an example of that. And one interesting idea that I tried out with this quadruple CRAM setup is having 2 of the guns. This is a Doom frag setup, by the way. Like, I know that's not the only option for CRAM, but my goodness, it's just really big frag CRAM shells are just so good. They're just so wonderful, and like, they're really hard not to use once you get into the habit of using them. And so 2 of the guns are set to 130 degrees frag angle and just inertial fuses, so they're just straight penetrators, I guess. And then the other 2 are set to 180 degrees, and they have timed fuses on them, so they're the ones that even if the whole volley misses, they might still stretch the paint. That's the idea. The problem is, the usual problem that is with CRAM cannons these days is that multi-CRAM setups are not as good as just one big one. And I've had people like disagree with me on that, and that's fine. Like, you do not have to agree with me on everything. My goodness, I'm not right all the time. But generally speaking, if you have, say, X amount of volume for your CRAM cannon, you're better off with one big one rather than a whole bunch of smaller ones. Generally speaking, there are exceptions to this. Like, if you're going with an AP CRAM, so something that's mostly kinetic and has HE or frag mixed in with it, that's actually pretty decent for CRAM spam, because the shells, they have a lot of health as made up for the hardener pellets, which I'm experimenting with putting in here right now. I decided against it because I want maximum frag. In hindsight, that probably wasn't a very good idea, but then again, this whole setup wasn't a very good idea either. So yeah, it's like basically with AP CRAM, whether it's a pure kinetic CRAM, actually no, pure kinetic CRAMs tend to be best used as hollow point, in which case you might as well have one big one again. But it's like AP penetrator CRAMs, like pen depth CRAMs. Multi-CRAM setups work pretty okay with them, but for pretty much everything else, not really. Like HE EMP, you're better off with just one big one. Frag, of course, just better off with one big one. HE is another one where it's like kind of yes and no. If you have pure HE CRAM, if it's small, you're better off with just one, but once you get into, say, a pretty big turret, you're actually better off with a few, because that overlapping HE damage covers a wider area, and just generally does more. So yeah, it's not too bad. This setup I've got right here is not super good for what I was actually going for. So yeah, this, like, just so you know, this is a failure, and you'll see why right now, because I'm using the Megalodon as a testing dummy. Because even though I'm not sure if the resulting satellite will be a Meg killer, you know, you can hardly go wrong with it being able of scratching the Meg, because if it can damage Meg from accounting, it can damage anybody. And so as you can clearly see, all 4 shells were shot down, like, with basically no effort from the Meg, so they have insufficient ducker, they have insufficient shell health, so that's not very good. So this is me kind of puzzling out, thinking like, how can I retrofit this now to be better? This is me placing a few blocks, trying to figure it out, and I just decided, okay, so what if we add even more crammage to it? So just go nuts on the crammage, and you'll notice this is getting to be a very long and skinny cram setup, which is never a good thing. Well, I say never a good thing, it's just not advisable. So here's a fun rule, and by fun rule I mean kind of a vague rule. From the Depths is like that. There's very few hard and fast rules that aren't actually written into the game itself, but there's are good guidelines, and one of them is the closer in shape to a cube you get, the more volume efficient something is. So this is not very volume efficient at all, because it's not very cube shaped, it's too long. So that tends to be the case for turrets, even though turrets are, you know, you want a rounded shape so it turns. If it makes maximum use of the cube-shaped space it's in, that's a good thing. That is better than the alternative. So at this point we are actually managing to damage the Meg, but not very much. So at this point I decide, nah, we're going to start over. And I accidentally deleted the whole AI on this fortress because I deleted the local weapon controller. I did the shift-delete thing on the local weapon controller, so later on you'll see me kind of look around for the AI and wonder what on earth happened. So yeah, now we're going to mess around with Diamond Tetris, and I managed to stuff this up as well, because it's been actually quite some time since I've done just standard Tetris like this that wasn't in a turret well, so I'm actually rusty. That's a thing in front of the desk. Oh yeah, see right there, I placed that thing wrong. That was wrong of me. I'm gonna realize my mistake. Yep, right there. I realize it right now. This is at ×2 speed, by the way. I found that I like doing that with these Let's Build videos, and I also find that people like it when I do that, because it means you just get through it faster, you get to the juicy bits a bit quicker, and it also means I'm not waiting for past me, who is very slow, to hurry up, and so we can get to the good stuff ahead of time, I guess. So yeah, this is, I guess, a slightly better demonstration of how to place Diamond Tetris. Is like you place, I guess, I don't know what the word is. You place some bits first, and then you fill the bits in between, and that way there's no confusion. And you'll notice that I'm following my own advice here, in that I'm gonna faff around a little bit trying to get this as close to a perfect square as possible. In fact, I do manage that. I do like giving away spoilers during my own video, don't I? Oh, so good. Very smart of me. Anyway, so this is a big cram, as you probably already guessed. And yeah, there's not much more to say. Similar idea. I end up messing with this a fair amount. Mainly because, like, this is still going to be Doomfrag, because I have an addiction to Doomfrag. I might need professional help. I might be holding off on the canoe building at the moment, but my goodness, the Doomfrag, you can't stop me. You can't stop me, won't stop me. Do you even want to stop me? Let me know in the comments. So yeah, just filling in, putting all the pellets where they're supposed to be. I think there's one point where I actually miss a spot. Can't see where that is because the frames are going by too fast. Past BorderWise, but not completely past BorderWise. You fast forwarded too hard. I can't tell what's happening anymore. So much pellets. So this is huge. This is already big. And what I like to do with building weapons of kind of any sort in Front of the Depths is I want to see how little I can get away with. So You, like, don't shoot for overkill immediately, and I know that's a weird thing to say, right? It's like there's no such thing as overkill. There's only open fire, and I need to reload. But I do like, I'm not a stickler for efficiency, but I do like to build as small and compact as possible generally, simply because that's more satisfying. It's like, heh, I did this with like, I'm not even at my full power. I'm sorry if that sounds weird, but that's kind of just, I don't know, it's more satisfying when you do more with less rather than doing less with more, I find. In video games, I have a habit of doing that in video games all the time. Like, I am drawn to the less meta way of doing things in video games. It's like, how do you describe it? I guess that's one of the reasons I like CRAM cannons so much, is because aside from being fun and being giant guns, and being very satisfying to watch, yeah, it's just, there's something more interesting about doing that way. One of the examples of this is when I play Skyrim, which is my other favorite game, apart from the devs, and I'm doing a playthrough of Skyrim right now, actually. You find it on the channel, Rolling Hardcore. Do recommend, it's great fun. I'm always drawn to using, like, two-handed over one-handed skills. And for those of you who've never touched Skyrim, just know that one-handed is effectively better than the two-handed. Both the skill and the weapon type is just generally better because it's faster and you can dual wield and you can use a shield, etc, etc. But I just like two-handed weapons. They're fun. And, like, you have to... Skyrim is kind of a exploitable broken mess of a game anyway, so like, you gotta find your fun where you can in it, and it's a very individual thing. And I like two-handed weapons. One of my favorite things to do is run around in light armor, so I move fast, and then just, hit things over the head with a two-handed sword, and it's a great time. It's not the most effective way to play. I guess the most effective way to play is just being, a stealthy archer, really. That's not the only way to play Skyrim, but you get my point. But yeah, so, here is a fun thing. 3D Tetris, which I feel I have miscommunicated in the past regarding 3D versus 6-connection Tetris. I think people, when I was talking about 6-connection Tetris in tutorials gone by, people thought I was talking about 3D Tetris, and those two things aren't quite the same thing, because all 6-connection Tetris, as in Tetris in which you get 6 packers onto one pellet, that is always 3D. You can't really do that in a 2D sense. But not all 3D Tetris is 6-connection Tetris, because if you're building in, like, more than 2 dimensions, you don't necessarily have or want 6 connections on each pellet. Like, that's not ends up happening. There is a I'm not sure if it's popular, but it's a very effective volume-efficient way of getting a lot of data into a small space with CRAMs. It's basically, darn it, I don't remember if I've shown it off or not. And since this isn't live commentary, I can't pause the building of this and show you, but suffice to say, there is a method of doing 3D, 3x3 Tetris, which isn't super material efficient, but it does get you a lot of connections in a smaller space, and that is 3D Tetris, but not 6-connection Tetris. So, to anybody who is, I have miscommunicated with regarding that, yeah, there is a difference, and yeah, 3D is better if you have the time and patience for it. Or if not, like, yeah, you can just, standard diamond is your friend. And here's the bit where I realize that there's no AI, or I half realize that, and then I have to go build one. And what was I saying? Oh yeah, so generally with my CRAM cannons, I tend to, even if I'm using mostly 2D Tetris, like right at the very top, I will just chuck some 3D Tetris in there just to get a little bit of extra connections in, because why not? There's some space in there. It's just a little bit of extra efficiency, not too much, and not too difficult either. Yeah. Admittedly, like, you also, I could have used considerably less connectors in the connection, on the front face of this whole cannon, but using excessive connectors isn't always a bad thing, because that's also redundancy. Remember, it's not a matter of if your weapon system gets blown up, it's how and when it gets blown up. So this is going to be on the underside of the satellite, which means that if anything does hit it, that's precisely where it's going to hit. And so you do need to keep in mind that any weapon system that's going to get shot at a lot does need some kind of redundancy, even behind all the protection you give it, if you want it to keep firing. So now we do our first test, and actually no, we're not doing our first test. What we're doing instead is putting a fusing box in there, because that's a good idea. We want to do good ideas and not bad ideas, because good ideas are better than bad ideas. Where was my brain going with that sentence? So anyway, we're gonna muck around here with various setups regarding fuses and regarding fragmentation angles. So we're starting off with the airburst one, just so we can see what works, what doesn't. And one layer of this CRAM cake is not going to be quite enough damage. And right there, this is where I realized I forgot to put the timed fuse on here. So that was very silly. That was very, very silly, and we're going to wait for that to happen again. Good thing this footage is sped up, because it is about 20 seconds between each CRAM reload. And right there I realized, okay, yep, not enough CRAM. Not enough CRAM, we need more. We need more! So we do more. So this is one of the great things about building CRAMs bit by bit, is that you just prefab it, and away you go. And now, alas alackaday, the reload speed is too quick, which is a bad thing, by the way, because CRAMs have roughly their max damage per second at around 20-second reload, because that's the sweet spot between, you know, firing reasonably quickly, but also having enough damage and health per shell. Generally, fast-firing CRAMs never really turn out well, because the shells do too little damage per shot, and even if they do decent damage, any kind of active defense will just disintegrate them straight out of the air, and that's no good. It is much better to have a single strong CRAM shell that reaches its target, rather than a whole mess of them which don't. Especially if they've got things like LAMs or CWIS or missile interceptors, stuff like that. So that is actually somewhat reasonable damage, 300,000 kinetic damage. And you see we're getting right in there. We've gotten fragments getting right in, actually damaging one of the steam engines deep inside the Meg, which is pretty good. That's the main reason that Doomfrag is so good. And so that's 190k, and that's okay, but it could be a bit better. And so, yeah, once you see that, what you just saw there was more steam engines. So that's one of the keys to killing the Megalodon Quickling. What am I saying? The key to killing Meg from accounting is to take out her steam engines quick, because that makes things a lot easier. So right there, I decide, you know what? We need even more Daka. We can go bigger, and we absolutely should. But instead, we're going to test. Aha! See, accuracy wasn't set to max, so putting that back and just testing that again. A lot of this is just testing. This is why I think in Let's Builds Gone By, I haven't really shown the testing process, because it is this, just over and over again. Also with me getting lost in a meditative state watching the Megalodon and other craft get blown up. So right now you can see that the damage output is very lackluster, so now we're going to get rid of the timed fuse. I have an addiction to timed fuses that I probably should get over, because they can be super handy, but other times they can completely screw you with regards to DPS. So now the timed fuse is gone, and now this is a impact CRAM only, and arguably I could swap out, I could turn this into a hollow point CRAM. And yeah, damage is okay, we're reaching them, but important note, in a few patches ago, all munitions were changed to do less damage as they get damaged. So, an important way to get around, ensure that you have max DPS is actually just make your munitions as tough as possible so they can actually do something by the time they reach the target. And right there, we have magically managed to make the thing a lot more powerful. And looking at the tracer on that, there we go. See, wow, we've got a pure impact CRAM, and we just did almost 800,000 kinetic damage. That is beautiful. That is beautiful indeed. The satellite is pretty much just going to be a flying CRAM cannon, that's it. And there's 1 million kinetic damage. 1 million, baby. And we're getting fragments deep, deep, deep into the Megalodon, which is absolutely fantastic. Remember, this thing is going to be flying over the Megalodon as well, so it's going to be doing this straight onto the deck. Whee, bang, and yes. Turret disabled, and I think the Megalodon isn't even moving anymore, so this is the winning setup. I think I do mess around with a bit. I try the time fuse setup one more time, but then I decide against it, so... And that's when I decide that, you know what, the inertial fuse should be a little bit more strict than that, because that's no bueno. You don't want your big expensive shells bouncing, because these are very big expensive shells. Whee! And that's when I realized that even though that just sniped a turret off, it would be even better if it didn't detonate too early, so... I'm testing this from a higher elevation now, just to see if that makes any difference. But then my fortress runs out of power to do that, so... Whoop! There's 1.2... Ooh, yes, it's so nice to see that little M meaning million. So even though my fortress is in God mode, like, let's not run the engines too hot, because that's a bit silly. Bang. And beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. So, alright, so we're going to test that one more time, just to see if we can get away with using the time fuse, because I do love using that. It just is very nice when the thing misses and it's like, aha, I didn't miss after all. Nah, 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 nah. So this first shot here, which almost always misses, still manages to do something and poke some pretty significant holes in the Meg. So, but I decide against this simply because I was like, you know what? I would much rather do crippling shots immediately. So, 700,000 kinetic damage, it's doing okay. I might make two versions of this CRAM satellite, because, you know what, why not? Why not? It'll be a very simple change. Oh yeah, this is me trying out like a narrow frag angle as well, which generally doesn't work that well with frag for anything, be it APS missiles or CRAM. Yeah, so the reason why, ooh, but that was a good shot. That was like the one good shot you would have seen from this thing. Yeah. But yeah, so the reason why 130 degrees is an angle I use a lot is because apparently that's the sweet spot between damage and all the fragments going in the correct direction. This is actually pretty good damage, just getting right in there. But apparently past me didn't like that, so 130 degrees, and we're gonna shoot a Marauder just because we've got to. Like, them's the rules. I didn't make them up, I just follow them, and sometimes enforce them. And the puny Marauder CRAM is firing back, and then I do the same thing. And the results are pretty good, but also damage-wise not so good. It's interesting how you see how much less damage was done. That is a case for spamming cheek. Yeah, and the Marauder just shot itself, because the end of the barrel wasn't where it expected to be. So yeah. Yeah, this is basically it. We shoot a Marauder and that's it. I think I wanted to shoot the Meg one more time, but I didn't. So that's basically it, really. So, yeah, just, you know, the CRAM satellite is coming along very well. A bit of a bumpy start with the first CRAM setup I had, decided against it, made a much better one. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, never leave home without your Doom Frag. You never know when you might run into Meg from accounting. She's very scary. So, thank you all so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. Support me on Patreon or YouTube membership if you like. It really helps, and there's fun perks in it for you. Thank you to all my current supporters, and I will see you next time in From the Depths. Let's build. Farewell.